In part 5 of this series, we'll explore 21 of the most common technical and methodology interview questions and answers you will be asked during your project manager interview. Each answer can be customized to highlight your unique qualifications and experiences. Before your interview, it's important to research the company and review the job description so you can incorporate key skills relevant to the job role in your answers. Question number 1. What is the difference between Agile and Waterfall methodologies? Hiring managers ask this to assess your foundational understanding of project management approaches and whether you can apply them appropriately. They are not just looking for definitions, but for your ability to explain when and why each method is used. A strong answer should demonstrate practical understanding, not textbook memorization. It should also show that you can adapt your approach based on project needs rather than rigidly following one methodology. The main difference between Agile and Waterfall is how they approach planning and execution. Waterfall follows a structured, linear process where each phase is completed before moving to the next, which works well when requirements are clearly defined from the beginning. Agile, on the other hand, is iterative and flexible, allowing teams to adapt as requirements evolve through continuous feedback. In my experience, the choice between the two depends on the nature of the project. For example, if the project has stable requirements and strict regulatory expectations, a waterfall approach provides clarity and control. However, for projects where requirements may change or need frequent input from stakeholders, Agile allows for faster adjustments and ongoing improvement. I focus less on labeling the methodology and more on using the principles that best support the project. For me, the goal is always to deliver value efficiently, whether that means following a structured plan or adapting along the way. Question number 2. Which project management methodologies are you most familiar with? Hiring managers ask this to understand your exposure and whether your experience aligns with their environment. They are looking for both breadth and depth. Knowing the methodologies is one thing, but applying them effectively is what matters. A strong answer should show hands-on experience and flexibility rather than rigid preference. It should also demonstrate that you understand when each methodology works best. I'm most familiar with Agile, particularly Scrum and elements of Kanban, as well as more traditional waterfall approaches. In practice, I've found that most projects don't fit perfectly into one framework, so I've often worked in environments that blend elements of both. For example, I've used Agile practices like iterative delivery, sprint planning, and regular feedback loops to keep projects flexible and responsive. At the same time, I've applied structured planning and milestone tracking from Waterfall when projects required more predictability or had fixed requirements. What's most important to me is not strictly following a methodology, but understanding the strengths of each and applying them in a way that supports the team and the project goals. This allows me to stay adaptable while still maintaining structure and accountability. Question number 3. How do you decide which methodology to use for a project? Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your judgment and ability to tailor your approach. They want to see that you consider multiple factors rather than defaulting to one method. A strong answer should highlight decision-making based on project characteristics, team dynamics, and stakeholder needs. I decide which methodology to use by first understanding the nature of the project, including how clearly the requirements are defined and how likely they are to change. If the scope is well-defined and stable, a more structured approach like Waterfall can provide clarity and control. If the project requires flexibility and frequent feedback, I lean toward Agile. I also consider the team's experience and the organization's environment. Some teams are more effective with iterative approaches, while others perform better with clearly defined stages and milestones. In many cases, I use a hybrid approach that combines the strengths of both. For example, I may use structured planning at a high level while allowing flexibility within execution phases. Ultimately, my goal is to choose an approach that supports efficient delivery while keeping the team aligned and adaptable. Question number 4. How do you manage a project using Agile? Hiring managers ask this to see if you understand Agile beyond theory and can apply it effectively. They want to know how you organize work, collaborate with teams, and ensure continuous progress. A strong answer should show structure within flexibility and emphasize team collaboration. I manage a project using Agile by breaking down the work into smaller, manageable increments that can be delivered over short cycles. I start by working with stakeholders to define priorities and build a backlog that reflects the most valuable work. From there, I facilitate sprint planning sessions where the team commits to specific tasks for each iteration. During the sprint, I stay engaged through regular check-ins to ensure progress is on track and any blockers are addressed quickly. I also make sure there is continuous feedback through reviews and retrospectives, which allows the team to adjust and improve with each cycle. By focusing on iterative delivery and constant communication, I'm able to keep the project flexible while still maintaining clear direction and momentum. Question number 5. How do you run sprint planning meetings? Hiring managers ask this to evaluate how you organize and lead Agile ceremonies effectively. They want to see that you can keep meetings focused, productive, and aligned with project goals. A strong answer should demonstrate preparation, clarity, and collaboration. I run sprint planning meetings by first ensuring that the backlog is well prepared and prioritized so the team can focus on selecting meaningful work. Before the meeting, I review upcoming priorities with stakeholders to make sure everything is aligned. During the session, I guide the team through the highest priority items, ensuring everyone understands the requirements and expectations. I encourage discussion so the team can estimate effort accurately and identify any potential challenges early. Once tasks are selected, I help the team define a clear sprint goal so there is a shared understanding of what we are aiming to achieve. I keep the meeting structured and focused so we use time effectively while still allowing collaboration. This ensures the team leaves with clarity, alignment, and a realistic plan for the sprint. Question number 6. How do you conduct daily stand-ups effectively? Hiring managers ask this to see if you can keep Agile ceremonies efficient and valuable rather than routine or time-wasting. They want to know if you can maintain momentum, quickly identify blockers, and keep the team aligned without turning the meeting into a status update. A strong answer should show structure, discipline, and the ability to keep discussions focused while still encouraging collaboration. I conduct daily stand-ups with a strong focus on clarity and efficiency. I keep the meeting short and structured around 3 key points: what was completed, what is being worked on next, and whether there are any blockers. This keeps the conversation focused and prevents it from turning into a long discussion. I also make it clear that the purpose of the stand-up is not for detailed problem solving, but to surface issues quickly. If something requires deeper discussion, I take it offline with the relevant team members after the meeting. I pay close attention to patterns, such as recurring blockers or delays, because they often indicate larger issues that need to be addressed. Over time, this helps improve team efficiency. By keeping stand-ups consistent, focused, and purposeful, I ensure they add real value and help the team stay aligned and productive throughout the sprint. Question number 7. How do you handle backlog prioritization? Hiring managers ask this to understand how you decide what work gets done first and how you balance competing demands. They want to see that you prioritize based on value, not just urgency. A strong answer should show collaboration with stakeholders and a structured approach to decision-making. I handle backlog prioritization by focusing on delivering the highest value to the project or business. I work closely with stakeholders to understand what is most important and why, so priorities are aligned with overall goals rather than individual preferences. I consider factors such as business impact, urgency, dependencies, and effort required when deciding what should come first. This helps ensure that the team is always working on tasks that move the project forward in a meaningful way. I also keep the backlog flexible and review it regularly because priorities can shift as new information becomes available. This allows us to stay responsive without losing direction. By maintaining a clear and well-prioritized backlog, I ensure the team stays focused on what matters most and avoids unnecessary work. Question number 8. What tools have you used for project management? Hiring managers ask this to see if you are comfortable using tools that support organization, tracking, and collaboration. They are not just looking for a list of tools, but how you use them effectively to improve project outcomes. A strong answer should demonstrate practical usage rather than just familiarity. I've used a variety of project management tools such as Jira, Trello, Asana, and Microsoft Project, depending on the needs of the project and the team. What matters most to me is not the tool itself, but how it's used to create visibility and structure. For example, I use tools like Jira or Asana to track tasks, manage timelines, and make dependencies visible so everyone understands how their work fits into the bigger picture. I also use dashboards to provide stakeholders with real-time updates, which reduces the need for constant check-ins. I make sure the team is aligned on how the tool is used so it stays consistent and doesn't become confusing or underutilized. By using project management tools effectively, I'm able to improve communication, track progress more accurately, and keep the project organized from start to finish. Question number 9. How do you track progress in an agile environment? Hiring managers ask this to see how you measure progress when work is iterative and constantly evolving. They want to know if you rely on clear metrics and visibility rather than assumptions. A strong answer should show that you combine data with communication to stay on track. I track progress in an agile environment by using a combination of visual tools, key metrics, and regular team communication. I rely on tools like sprint boards or dashboards to provide real-time visibility into task status, which helps everyone understand where things stand at any given moment. I also monitor metrics such as sprint velocity and completion rates to identify trends over time. These metrics help me understand whether the team is on track or if adjustments are needed. In addition to data, I stay closely connected with the team through daily stand-ups and regular check-ins to quickly identify any blockers or risks. By combining visibility, data, and communication, I'm able to track progress effectively while still maintaining the flexibility that Agile requires. Question number 10. What is your experience with Scrum or Kanban? Hiring managers ask this to understand your practical experience with Agile frameworks and how you apply them in real situations. They want to see that you go beyond terminology and actually understand how these frameworks function in a team environment. A strong answer should demonstrate hands-on experience, adaptability, and how you use each approach to improve workflow and delivery. I have experience working with both Scrum and Kanban, and I've found that each serves a different purpose depending on the nature of the project and the team's workflow. With Scrum, I've worked in structured sprint cycles where we plan work in advance, commit to deliverables, and review progress at the end of each sprint. I've facilitated sprint planning, daily stand-ups, and retrospectives to ensure the team stays aligned and continuously improves. With Kanban, I've used it in environments where work is more continuous and less predictable. I focus on visualizing the workflow, limiting work in progress, and identifying bottlenecks so we can improve efficiency over time. What's been most valuable is knowing when to apply each approach. In some cases, I've even combined elements of both to fit the team's needs. My goal is always to create a system that keeps work flowing smoothly while maintaining visibility and accountability. Question number 11. How do you manage scope? In Agile projects, hiring managers ask this to see how you maintain control in an environment that allows for flexibility. They want to know if you can handle changing requirements without letting the project become unmanageable. A strong answer should show balance between adaptability and structure. I manage scope in Agile projects by keeping the focus on delivering value while maintaining clear boundaries around what is included in each iteration. At the start, I work with stakeholders to define a well-prioritized backlog that reflects the most important work. As new requests or changes come in, I don't automatically add them into the current sprint. Instead, I evaluate their importance and place them in the backlog for future prioritization. This helps protect the team's focus and ensures that commitments made for the current sprint are respected. I also communicate clearly with stakeholders about how scope changes impact timelines and priorities, so there are no misunderstandings. By managing scope through prioritization and structured iteration cycles, I'm able to keep the project flexible without losing control or overwhelming the team. Question number 12. How do you handle changes in Agile versus Waterfall projects? Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your understanding of how different methodologies handle change. They want to see that you can adapt your approach based on the framework being used. A strong answer should clearly differentiate between the two while showing practical application. I handle changes differently depending on whether the project is Agile or Waterfall because each approach has its own structure. In Agile, change is expected, so I incorporate it through the backlog. New requirements are evaluated, prioritized, and introduced into future iterations without disrupting current work. In Waterfall projects, changes are more structured and require formal evaluation. I assess the impact on scope, timeline, and budget before moving forward, and any approved changes are documented and communicated clearly. In both cases, communication is critical. I make sure stakeholders understand the implications of any change so decisions are made with full awareness. By adapting my approach based on the methodology, I'm able to manage change effectively while maintaining control and alignment throughout the project. Question number 13. What is a critical path and how do you use it? Hiring managers ask this to assess your technical understanding of project scheduling and dependencies. They want to know if you can identify what truly drives the timeline and how to manage it effectively. A strong answer should show both knowledge and practical use. The critical path is the sequence of tasks that directly determines the minimum time required to complete a project. Any delay in these tasks will directly impact the overall project timeline, so they require close attention. I use the critical path to identify which activities are most important to keeping the project on schedule. During planning, I map out dependencies and determine which tasks cannot be delayed without affecting the final delivery. Throughout the project, I monitor these critical tasks closely and ensure that any risks or delays are addressed immediately. If needed, I may reallocate resources or adjust priorities to protect the timeline. By focusing on the critical path, I'm able to maintain control over the project schedule and ensure we stay on track toward completion. Question number 14. How do you manage dependencies in Agile projects? Hiring managers ask this to see how you handle coordination across teams in a fast-moving environment. They want to know if you can maintain flow without letting dependencies create bottlenecks. A strong answer should show visibility, proactive planning, and communication across teams. I manage dependencies in Agile projects by identifying them early and making them visible to the entire team. During backlog refinement and sprint planning, I make sure dependencies are clearly discussed so there are no surprises during execution. I also work closely with other teams or stakeholders involved to align timelines and expectations. If a dependency could impact progress, I prioritize those tasks early in the sprint to reduce the risk of delays. Throughout the sprint, I monitor dependencies closely and check in with the relevant teams to ensure everything is moving as expected. If I see a potential delay, I address it immediately by adjusting priorities or finding alternative solutions. By staying proactive and keeping dependencies transparent, I'm able to maintain momentum and prevent bottlenecks from slowing down the project. Question number 15. What metrics do you use to measure team performance? Hiring managers ask this to understand how you evaluate productivity and effectiveness without micromanaging. They want to see that you use meaningful metrics rather than just tracking activity. A strong answer should show balance between data and team dynamics. I measure team performance using a combination of quantitative and qualitative metrics to get a complete picture. On the quantitative side, I look at metrics such as sprint velocity, task completion rates, and how consistently the team meets commitments. These help identify trends and areas where adjustments may be needed. However, I don't rely solely on numbers. I also pay attention to team collaboration, communication, and overall engagement because those factors often impact performance just as much as output. I use these insights to support the team rather than to control them. For example, if performance drops, I focus on understanding why and addressing the root cause rather than placing blame. By combining data with team feedback, I'm able to create an environment where performance improves naturally and sustainably. Question number 16. How do you ensure continuous improvement in your projects? Hiring managers ask this to see if you focus on growth and learning rather than just completing tasks. They want to know if you actively look for ways to improve processes and outcomes over time. A strong answer should highlight reflection, feedback, and action. I ensure continuous improvement by building it into the project process rather than treating it as an afterthought. In agile environments, I use retrospectives to reflect on what worked well and what could be improved after each iteration. I encourage open and honest feedback from the team so we can identify both strengths and areas for growth. Once we identify improvements, I make sure they are turned into actionable changes rather than just discussions. Even outside of Agile, I conduct project reviews at the end to capture lessons learned and apply them to future work. By consistently reflecting and making small improvements over time, I'm able to enhance both team performance and project outcomes in a meaningful way. Question number 17. How do you handle technical teams? As a non-technical project manager, hiring managers ask this to understand how you collaborate with technical experts without needing to be deeply technical yourself. They want to see that you can communicate effectively, build trust, and support the team without interfering unnecessarily. A strong answer should show respect for expertise and strong communication skills. I handle technical teams as a non-technical project manager by focusing on clear communication and mutual respect. I don't try to act as the technical expert, but I make sure I understand enough to ask the right questions and follow discussions. I rely on the expertise of the team and create an environment where they feel comfortable sharing insights and raising concerns. I also ensure that technical details are translated into clear updates for stakeholders so everyone stays aligned. At the same time, I focus on removing blockers, managing timelines, and keeping the team organized so they can focus on their work. By building trust and maintaining clear communication, I'm able to effectively support technical teams while ensuring the project stays on track. Question number 18. How do you use project management software to improve efficiency? Hiring managers ask this to see whether you use tools strategically or just as basic trackers. They want to understand if you can leverage software to improve visibility, reduce manual work, and streamline collaboration across teams. A strong answer should demonstrate that you use tools to enhance processes, not complicate them. It should also reflect that you align tool usage with team needs rather than forcing rigid systems. I use project management software as a central hub to create clarity, reduce confusion, and improve overall efficiency across the team. Rather than just tracking tasks, I set up structured workflows where responsibilities, deadlines, and dependencies are clearly visible so everyone understands how their work connects to the bigger picture. I also use automation features where possible, such as notifications, status updates, and recurring tasks to reduce manual follow-ups and save time. This allows the team to focus more on execution rather than administration. I make sure dashboards are set up so stakeholders can quickly view progress, risks, and key updates without needing constant meetings. At the same time, I ensure the tool remains simple and consistent so it doesn't become overwhelming or underused. I regularly review how the team is using it and adjust if needed. By using project management software effectively, I'm able to improve communication, increase transparency, and help the team operate more efficiently without adding unnecessary complexity. Question number 19. What is your experience with risk management frameworks or tools? Hiring managers ask this to understand whether you take a structured approach to risk management and if you are familiar with tools that support it. They want to see that you can go beyond identifying risks and actually track, assess, and manage them effectively. A strong answer should highlight both your experience and how you apply it in real situations. I have experience using structured risk management approaches that focus on identifying, assessing, and tracking risks throughout the project lifecycle. While I've used tools like risk registers and tracking systems within platforms such as Jira or Excel-based frameworks, what's most important to me is maintaining visibility and accountability. I typically document risks along with their likelihood, impact, and mitigation strategies, which helps prioritize attention and ensures nothing is overlooked. I also assign ownership for key risks, so there is clear responsibility for monitoring and action. Throughout the project, I regularly review and update risks as new information becomes available. This keeps the process dynamic rather than static. By combining structured frameworks with consistent monitoring, I'm able to manage risks proactively and reduce uncertainty, which leads to more stable and predictable project outcomes. Question number 20. How do you handle release planning and deployment? Hiring managers ask this to see how you manage the final stages of a project where coordination and precision are critical. They want to know if you can align teams, minimize risk, and ensure a smooth rollout. A strong answer should show planning, communication, and attention to detail. I handle release planning and deployment by starting with a clear and detailed plan that outlines what will be delivered, when, and how. I work closely with the team to ensure all components are ready, tested, and aligned before the release. I also coordinate across teams to confirm that dependencies are accounted for and that everyone understands their role during the deployment process. This includes preparing contingency plans in case any issues arise. Communication is a key part of my approach. I make sure stakeholders are informed about the release timeline, expected outcomes, and any potential risks, so there are no surprises. After deployment, I monitor performance closely and ensure any issues are addressed quickly. By taking a structured and proactive approach, I'm able to ensure releases are smooth, controlled, and successful. And finally, here's the last project manager technical and methodology interview question. Question number 21. How do you manage hybrid projects that combine Agile and Waterfall? Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your flexibility and ability to adapt methodologies to complex environments. They want to see if you can combine structure with adaptability while keeping the project aligned. A strong answer should show practical experience and thoughtful integration of both approaches. I manage hybrid projects by combining the structured planning of Waterfall with the flexibility of Agile, depending on the needs of each phase of the project. At a high level, I often use Waterfall to define scope, timelines, and key milestones, so there is a clear overall direction. Within those phases, I apply Agile practices such as iterative development, regular feedback, and continuous improvement to allow the team to adapt as needed. This helps maintain flexibility without losing control of the overall plan. I also ensure that communication remains consistent across both approaches, so stakeholders understand how the project is progressing and how changes are being managed. By blending both methodologies thoughtfully, I'm able to create a balanced approach that supports both predictability and adaptability, which is often necessary for more complex projects. If you want to learn more on how to land jobs and reach your career goals, don't forget to hit that subscribe and bell notification button to get new videos every single week. Also, don't forget to hit that like button because that motivates me to keep doing what I do. Stay safe, keep smiling, and good luck.